Hello grade 5 PYP exhibitors. I have a few questions for you and a few things to share. The first thing is a question. What do the following have in common? The first thing we have is an infographic about Asian dining etiquette in India. It's got information of tips you might want to know about, like always washing your hands and eating with your right hand, not your left, not sharing utensils, etc., etc. And then there's this one, a standoff. There's a Mexican standoff where two or more people pull guns on each other and no one moves. No one's first to pull the trigger because you don't know if the other guy's faster. So they reach an impasse. Nobody moves forward. Similarly, a Canadian standoff is when two Canadians meet at an open door. One says, "After you," and the other one says, "No, no, after you." "No, no, after you, I insist." "No, no, I insist." And the door stays open and no one moves. What about this one? Why does the one on the left say no and the one on the right says yes? Anyone? Because you don't serve rice with chopsticks sticking up like that, because it looks an awful lot like two pieces of incense in a temple. And it's considered bad luck to do that because it portends death. As a matter of fact, my mom was at a restaurant in North Carolina that was an Asian restaurant, and they served their rice like that with the chopstick sticking up, and she said, "Excuse me, I don't think you want to do that because it's bad luck." And she explained why, and they stopped serving the rice like that. What about here? Here's some old-timey people. She's wearing some fancy dress. He's wearing some fancy dress, and he's tipping his hat at her. Remember, you're looking for what these things have in common. The face I make when I hear someone chewing gum ridiculously loud. Maybe you're like me. I do make that face, and I've actually got off an MTR train just to get away from somebody who was chewing gum ridiculously loud. I took the next train. Speaking of trains, here's somebody offering a seat to a woman who looks extremely pregnant. What's going on here? They're passing business cards, but they're doing it in a very elaborate way, aren't they? What do these have in common? Typical Canadian scene. You're going to go inside. You take your shoes off before you go inside. Now, these guys are dressed up for something special, like a wedding. You don't usually show up for a wedding wearing a t-shirt and jeans. You dress up a little, and sometimes you dress up a lot, like these dudes. Here's an infographic from Japan. Please do it at home. Don't sprawl, eating food, leaving your garbage on the floor, taking up a whole seat with your magazines. As it says at the bottom, please share the seat with others. It's just, well, it's the thing we're talking about. What do they have in common? Here's a Ronald McDonald in Thailand. In the United States and Canada, he kind of waves to people. But in Thailand, he gives a Y to give the traditional Thai greeting. And then there's this video. I could watch that all day. All right, so you're probably thinking, Mr. Larson, these all have to do with etiquette, which is not pronounced etiquette, except late at night. What is etiquette, after all? That's what those pictures had in common. So here's a dictionary definition of etiquette, but for our purposes, here's the most simple definition. The customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. And that's what brings us here today. We're here to talk about a customary code of polite behavior among members of the CDNIS community, specifically email etiquette. Perhaps you can think of other kinds of etiquette, but here we're going to talk about email etiquette. Okay? So, another question for you. I'm doing a lot of questioning. Why do we have etiquette? That's a good answer. Someone just said, so we know how to treat each other. So we know how to expect to be treated. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh yes, it takes away a lot of stress, right? If we all believe on a code of conduct, if we all follow that, then we know how to relate in certain circumstances, and we're pretty good at that because a lot of us travel. We've got homes in other countries, we've got family in other countries, and we behave one way in Hong Kong. We might behave a different way at Grandma and Grandpa's farm. We might act quite differently with our cousins who live out in the country, etc., etc., etc. So etiquette gives us different ways to behave and helps us navigate life together because we have certain expectations of each other. It takes the pressure off relating to other people because we know how to expect. We know how to treat people with respect, and we can expect other people to treat us with respect. All right? So, this extends also to email. All right? So let's think about what face-to-face interactions have in common with print interactions. Okay, on this side we've got face-to-face, for example, facial expressions, and over here we've got print. And what do they have in common? Well, on the face-to-face side, we can take advantage of facial expressions. I know some of you are thinking, Mr. Larson, emoji? But emoji aren't quite the same as a facial expression. Facial expressions are much more nuanced, much more sophisticated, much more adaptable than emoji. So in a face-to-face interaction, we get a lot more information from facial expressions, which is why your teachers like to keep your camera on when we're doing a Zoom lesson, okay? When we're talking face-to-face, I can modulate my volume. If I really want to tell you a secret, I can be quiet. And if I'm quite angry or I need your attention, I can raise my volume. The proximity of how close we speak says a lot. The tone of voice we use says a lot. The body language we use says a lot. I'm gesturing wildly right now, but you can't see that because I'm just doing a recording. On the other hand, if we're doing something in print, the text size says a lot. The punctuation we use can change how people perceive what we're saying. The color that we choose colors how people perceive what we're saying. And our font choice says something about the message. Okay? So what they have in the middle is just words. The way face-to-face and print come together is the words we use and the etiquette that we agree on. Okay? So when we only communicate in print, we lose everything in that green circle, and we're left with just very few things. This is why etiquette is even more important when we're doing an email. Okay? So there's actually a lot of parts to an email. When I first thought about this, I thought, oh, there's 3 or 4 things. But no, there's a lot. What's number 1? Etc., 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 all the way to 8. I'll give you 10 seconds. Come up with what all those things belong, what all those labels point to. You got it? You got a name for everything? Don't worry about the exact term. As long as you know what it does, that's fine. Okay? So here they are. The first line is for the recipients. That's who's going to get the email. But here's the bonus question. You'll notice that there's a BCC to Ms. Tan. What does BCC stand for? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, you in the back row? That's right. It's blind carbon copy. Why it's called carbon copy is a story for another day, but blind carbon copy means that it's going to go to that recipient, but that recipient is not going to see who else gets it. So sometimes when I'm sneaky and I'm writing to a grade 7 or 8 student, I might BCC his or her mom and not want the student to know, so I might BCC the mom. and just put to student in the to part. Okay, that's what BCC is for. The subject obviously goes underneath it, but the subject is important and maybe you don't think about it. For a certain generation, we were taught don't open an email if there's no subject. That's a good indication that it came from a bot or that it's spam or it's something you don't want to open. Nowadays, it's more like, well, if I don't see a subject, I don't know what it is. I'm going to decide how many emails I can actually read today out of the 100 that I'm going to get. If it doesn't have a subject, it's not a priority. Why do we want a greeting? Well, I know it's for me because it's in my inbox, but maybe it's just CC'd to me for information's sake. Do I really know that they mean it for me, or is it just an email they sent to a million people or 10 people? So the greeting is very important. After that is an introduction. It tells us right away to get to the point. What's this email about? It might be a question you have to ask somebody, or it might be information. It's a good idea to have a single sentence in there that tells the reader right away, this is what my email is about, and you should keep reading. Okay? Then you want to have a clearly stated purpose. And you know what really helps to get people to read your emails? Lists of numbers. Honestly, it seems like a little thing, but it makes a huge difference. They see it's a list of numbers, they pay more attention to each item. And then you want to have a conclusion. Okay, having introduced what I'm talking about and saying what I want to say, what should you do about it? Well, maybe you want to have a conclusion there. It's like you're writing a tiny little essay. Then a closing is nice. Sincerely is a little old-fashioned. Warm regards, or regards, is more common. Thanks works as well. You can think about what is the most appropriate for whatever you're writing, okay? And then you want to put your name there. It is not a bad idea to put your class number there as well, because you might know you're in 5D, but somebody else might not know that. And if you ever say, can you come to my classroom? I don't know what classroom you're in. I don't even know what your grade you're in, okay? So it's a good idea to put your name and then behind it, either in your signature or when you put your name at the bottom to say what class you're in. And then if you want to be kind of classy, you can put a signature there and even put a little picture at the bottom, okay? So that's a lot of things to keep in mind. Maybe you don't think it's a lot of things to keep in mind. What if you're in a hurry? We're all busy. Well, maybe we want to leave some of these things out. So what I'd like you to think about is, well, what would be lost if you left out some of those parts? If you didn't have a conclusion, or if you didn't introduce yourself, or you didn't bother signing your name, or saying what class or what grade you're in, or what your timeline is, how would that make it a less effective email? And the reason we have email etiquette is because we want effective communication, and that's what we're after today, okay? So let's look at an email that is not completely made up. I've received emails kind of like this. You tell me what's wrong with it. I'm going to let you read it. Tell me how it sounds in your head. I'll tell you how it sounds in my head. Why do I take this email as if this person is mad? Because maybe this person doesn't realize that all caps equals shouting. Not everybody knows that, but more people know it than don't know it. And if you write an email to somebody that's in all caps, it suggests impatience. It suggests that you don't know that your caps lock is on, but it also can communicate that you're angry. And that's not usually a good reason to write an email. If you're angry, probably should never write that email and wait till you cool down and then write one with a calmer head, okay? And right now we're talking about email etiquette because you're going to be emailing a lot of people for your exhibit because you want to enlist their help. You want to ask their opinion. You want to ask if you can meet them and interview them or have them help you prepare your PYP exhibition. You don't want to do that while you're shouting, okay? How about another one? Here's another bad example. Also a real life example. Mrs. Henrik, I don't get the HW. I asked my friends and nobody gets it. What do I do? Please answer quick because my mom says I have to go to bed soon. Wow. What is wrong with this email? With the exception of the name, it's almost verbatim what I got from a student once. What's wrong with it? It's got a lot of problems. For one thing, Mrs. Heinrich should be MRS period. H-E, capital E? That's wrong. That should be a comma. Capital I on I. Don't is not spelled don't. HW, what do you mean? Of course, I am a teacher. I understand you mean homework, but if you don't have the time to send me a proper email, do I have time to send you an email? And what do you mean nobody gets it? Come on now, somebody must get the homework. You mean you don't get the homework? Why don't you just say I don't understand the homework? And what part of the homework don't you get? All of it? None of it? What have you done to try and understand the homework? Is it the homework you've been given all year? Why are you waiting till now to tell me you don't understand the homework, okay? Please answer quick because my mom says I have to go to bed soon. Is it late at night and you're expecting me to write to you right now? My goodness, I've been working all day and you expect a quick turnaround? No, I have 24 hours to write you back. And if you think that I'm going to email you back right away, I think that's an unreasonable expectation. You can't expect I'm going to be checking my email at 10:30 at night, 11:30 at night, 12 at night, although I've had students write to me that late, and I'm thinking, why aren't they in bed? And lol, really? So there's some problems with it. So how would you change this email? Subject. Put in a subject so the teacher knows that, oh, you're going to want to read this. I know it's late, but please, could you answer me? Dear Ms. Pulowski, or whatever your teacher's name is, and then start out with something nice. Get to the point. Can you please help me with the homework? And then get specific. Talk about what specific homework you're thinking about, what you don't understand. Maybe say what you've tried already, and then say politely, if you could answer me quickly, I appreciate it, because I know I left it to the last minute, but I really want to finish this soon. Thank you. Your student, sincerely, with warm regards. Thanks, your name. Okay, I got a little carried away at the end there, but you get the idea, right? Okay. Here's another email that I get often, and to be honest, it's around this time of year with PYP exhibition. To Mr. Larson, can we ask you some questions about our class project? Thanks, Sally. Well, I have some questions, but I'll write back to you. Yes, you're welcome. Mr. Larson. And then I wait a couple days, and then they write back. Great. When can we meet? Sally. Hi, Sally. When would you like to meet? Sincerely, Mr. Larson. And then I wait a couple more days. And an email exchange like this can go on for days and days and days. So what's missing from example number 3 is a whole lot of information. What could you do to improve this email? Well, give it a subject. Put a greeting on there, because I'd like to know it's for me, not just for my information. And because I might think, well, they probably wrote that to every single teacher in the school. It's not that important that I answer. But if it says, Dear Mr. Larson, ooh, they really want my help? Okay, well, I'll step up. I'll help them. And I need more information. Who's in the group? Who's we? What are your questions? When do you want to meet? Because my schedule and your schedule might be very different. But if you were to tell me, these who we are, we have some questions about Illustrator and 3D printing, and we are available every school day from 12:30 until 2:30. Is there a time that you could meet with us during that time? And then, please, Sally, tell me what class number you're in so I can follow up with your teacher if I need to say, hey, is there still time to meet with those two? Or I have some time, can I drop in and help? Things like that, okay? So the key word here is give a lot of information, okay? So if you were sitting next to your classmate, I'd say, you two, write a note, write an email right now, and make sure it's got all the parts that are in there, okay? I'm not going to have you do that, but I will point out that there's this gorgeous slide here that has a checklist that you could use before you send an email. It looks long, it looks daunting, but it's not that bad. Have you CC'd your group members and your teacher? Have you stated the purpose of the email in the subject line? Have you included a greeting? Have you introduced yourself? That doesn't mean your life story, of course. It just means, hi, I'm a grade 5 student in 5D. I'm preparing for my exhibition, and I'm going to write about the benefits of sport. I've clearly stated my purpose. I would like to ask you some questions about your opinion on the sporting world. I have a conclusion that expresses thanks or appreciation. I appreciate your time, or I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know if you can help us. And you've included a closing like, thank you very much. You can check your grammar, make sure you've avoided any abbreviations, because sometimes in the lower school, we use abbreviations that the upper school doesn't know about, and vice versa. So even in our school, there's abbreviations and words and terms that other people might not know. So you want to take a look and make sure that they know what you're talking about. You've used correct spelling and punctuation. You've had somebody else proofread it. Now, you're not going to do that for every email, but when you're preparing for your exhibition and you're sending it out on behalf of your group, it's probably a good idea to have another group member take another look at it, okay? And don't forget the attachments. Gmail is really spooky and really nice now, because if they see the word attachment in the email and you don't attach something, very often they'll stop before it sends and they'll say, we weren't reading your email or anything, but we noticed you said you'd attach something and you didn't. You want us to fix that for you? Okay. And there's other ways that Gmail can make your life easier. And I'm going to include these hyperlinks for you. How to check your spelling, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. Or it just doesn't seem like they know how to do it, because we get a lot of spelling mistakes. How to create an email signature so you can save time and identify yourself on every single email you have. You can turn on the reminder to attach emails, and you can actually put a timer on that will not send your email from your outbox for a whole 30 seconds, which has saved me, I'd say, at least once a month ever since I turned it on, because sometimes I'll write an email and I'll hit send, and then I'll look at the email again and I'll realize I didn't read that closely and I just answered the question they didn't ask, and I'll undo it and I'll fix it and send it. Okay? And if you're really interested in this, somebody went to the trouble of writing 101 email etiquette tips. You might want to check that out. Okay? This presentation is here, gg.gg/email etiquette. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing all your exhibits. Have fun.